Well, good morning and a very warm welcome back to another week on my allotment. Haven't videoed for a while, so life has been busy. Since I last saw you, the main thing that has occupied our time has been moving my eldest son and his little family into their new home in Chepstow. His partner and their daughter, Nikki and Lexi, finally got their visa, so they've flown over from Taiwan and they're now a family again, and they're living in a modest little house at the bottom of Chepstow. So we've been getting furniture from here, there and everywhere and using my van to move it in and make their house a home. So it's been quite an exciting time, which has taken me away from the plot. So that's really what I've been doing, but I have had time on the allotment. And as always, I've been busy. Well, what have you been doing, Martin, I hear you say? Well, if I can just read my notes. I've continued in-loading leaf mould, or leaves, to make leaf mould. Busy time at work clearing people's gardens of the autumn fall. And I don't just dispose of it, I bag it up, put it in the van and I bring it up here. Lots of bed preparation. So I spoke before about the fact that I just can't achieve totally no dig, and I've continued with that process of top dressing and digging in lots of very well rotted manure and compost. That's going very well, but there's still more to do. Lots of weeding and hoeing. Now that I've cleared away a lot of the dead vegetation, it's enabled me to get at the beds and do lots of weeding. And the more exciting stuff is planting. So I've finished planting all the onion sets I've got. I've also planted my first broad beans. I shall show you that shortly. And I've finished planting all the garlic I've got, and I've got 4 cloves of elephant garlic in the van, and I shall plant them in today. So yeah, I've been busy, and the plot's looking fairly good, I have to say. Of course, today is Remembrance Sunday. It's a big deal for me. I don't do all the town stuff. I don't want to know about religion. I don't want to stand at a service listening to a priest tell me about the glory of God, when war has nothing to do with glory. So I prefer to do it privately, and I have a little moment up here. So yeah, that'll be my day. And there's lots to do, and I shall shortly show you around at what I have done and what I have to do. But 2 other things. The first is, I did mention last time when I closed my last video that I was going to be doing a juice fast, and I have done. That's 2 weeks. 2 weeks without eating solid food. And I should declare that I have had the odd, one of my customers gave me 2 biscuits with a cup of tea. I ate them, and I've had some dry seeds and nuts of an evening just as a supplement to the juice. But other than a few bits and pieces, I certainly haven't eaten any meals. I haven't really eaten anything, so I've been surviving on smoothies and juices for 2 weeks, and I feel fantastic. Really, really healthy. It really is a wonderful way just to reset everything, give your body a chance to repair. Because of course the science of it is that when you eat solid food, and we do eat quite a lot nowadays, don't we, 80% of your body's main effort goes into digestion. Digestion is a really energy sapping process, and when your body's occupied day in, day out and at night with processing food, it doesn't get a chance to put its effort into repair. And of course we evolved very sparsely eating. We didn't eat like we do now. All this stuff about 3 square meals a day is nonsense. We evolved eating where and when we could. So there were large gaps in our eating, and that gave the body a chance to keep on top of it, all the household and maintenance and repair. Well, nowadays it doesn't get a chance. So the last 2 weeks my body's had a chance to sort itself out, repair, lose a bit of weight, and I do feel fantastic for it. I'm having a break this weekend. We went to see my daughter yesterday, and we had 2 wonderful, I have to say they were very healthy meals, fantastic, as they always are there. and today we're going to have a Sunday dinner, and I shall be taking some produce home for that. But then again, I shall go again tomorrow, and I'm going to do another 2 weeks, and hopefully that'll just build on what I've achieved so far. I haven't found it that difficult. I don't get the hunger pangs because the body doesn't send the hunger signals, because it's getting super loaded with nutrition from the juices. Anyway, I won't say any more about that. If you're interested, I've said to you before, watch the documentary on YouTube called Super Juice Me by Jason Vale. It's a life-changing documentary, and it shows you what can be achieved if you stay clear of the NHS and take responsibility for your own health. So if you're interested, watch that. And the second thing is, I finished off my potting bench. I said, again, I think it was last video, that I was going to pull out the old thing. The bench was all a bit rotten. It was actually on my allotment when I got it, and it was falling apart, and it pretty much has fallen apart, and I've replaced it. So I'll start by showing you that now. Well, here it is. So the old bench has gone, and you may remember all of this was completely firewood. So quite a considerable amount of the firewood has had to come out, and I've stored that elsewhere. And then I've replaced it with these shelves. Yeah, I'm very pleased with it. It's taken some of the stuff out of the shed for storage. I've got some of my hand tools stored in here. Very pleased, and it's practical as well as fairly attractive. Bearing in mind this is an allotment. Yeah, very happy with that. So what else have I been doing? Well, the first job I've done this week is those birdhouse gourds. I've got over 30 gourds, and I spoke to Les on the golf driving range, and he's very kindly allowed me to store about 20 of them in his storeroom out the back, and we shall see if they rot or not. But they're now all out of the elements. There's a few up there, and then I'll bring you forward. You'll see that there's some sat all over the place in that shed. So the gourds are all in storage, waiting for the spring. The old bench is sat here by the picnic table, just as somewhere to store it until I know what to do with it. Those are my spare broad beans, so the ones I've put in, if they get, well, they will get attacked by the slugs. If I lose any, they're the substitutes. This is my one bed so far of garlic, and they were all grown in pots in the greenhouse and then planted out here when they were big enough. That bed is full, and I have a second bed the same size, which as soon as I can get some more garlic cloves, I will plant up a second bed, because we use a lot of garlic. I've also finished planting the complete bed of onions. Yeah, job done, and we shall see how that develops next year, as long as they survive the winter. And this bed here I cleared, and that's got my broad beans in it. You can't really see them through the EnviroMesh. We've got a resident pheasant that lives on this site, and every now and again I find him on my plot, and I don't know if he would eat those broad beans, but I'm not taking any risks. So the EnviroMesh there is there really just to keep the pheasant off. And the EnviroMesh came from this bed here, which is my Swedes. And I figure now, at this time of year, there's no risk from the cabbage white. And the Swedes are now fully grown, ready to be harvested. So I've taken the netting off, and today I'm going to harvest 1 or 2 of them and give them a good weed, because it looks rather ragged. I've also developed a second onion bed and planted a few more sets. The remainder of that bed, which is this here and that there, will be planted up with onions grown from seed in the spring. Regular viewers will remember that when I cleared the josterberry plant out, I inadvertently cut that blackberry down, and I thought I'd given it the chop, but I'm very pleased to report that there is new growth. I haven't killed it. Isn't nature wonderful? It just wants to grow and propagate. So hopefully that'll, I don't suppose I'll get any fruit off that next year, but long term that will be fine. And at the bottom part of the plot, the rhubarb is now regrowing after I chopped it all back and mulched it with well rotted manure. This bed has been had again more well rotted manure dug in. The leeks, I'm going to harvest about a dozen of those today. I can't do anything with that bed till they're all gone, but that will need composting at a later date, as does this one here. It's been weeded and cleared of the gourds, and I've left the kale in, but it's had no goodness put into it, so I need to sort that at some point. And then here, where the pumpkins were grown this year, I've top dressed it with manure, and I shall leave it like that just to let it work its way in, hopefully, over the winter. So jobs to do today. Well, the first job is I'm going to harvest some of these tubs of main crop Sarpo Mira potato. I'm not sure how many, and I don't know what I'm going to expect when I get in there, but I'll show you when I do harvest them, and we'll see what I get. They won't be very big, because they never are. I am finally going to cut back the asparagus. I mean, some of it you can see is yellowing off, but the main plants just keep getting bigger and bushier. But I've got to do it at some point. This weekend seems like a good opportunity, so that's getting cut back today, and then at some point, it won't be today, I'm going to top dress it with compost or manure. And talking of top dressing, it's going to be the big job today, is I'm going to top dress these strawberry beds with more well rotted compost and manure. Not sure if I'll manage it all, but I shall certainly start that today. And the dahlia is finally looking very, very sorry for itself, so that's going to be chopped down today, and I leave the tubers in the ground. I'll just put a top dressing of compost over the top, and then I put a dustbin lid over the top of that with a rock, which keeps it protected from the worst of the cold over the winter. And then in March, April, I take the dustbin lid off, give it a feed, and it grows back, hopefully. Well, it's turned out a glorious day. Absolutely lovely out there. But I haven't done any interesting facts for a while. So without further ado, when the cat is let out of the bag, it means some sort of secret has been revealed. In the days of medieval markets, deceptions were often played on unsuspecting buyers, and one of those involved piglets and cats. Oh, excuse the kettle. Having been shown a suckling piglet, a purchaser would then start haggling with the vendor over price. While this was going on, the piglet would be bagged up, ready to be taken home. But a cat was often substituted while the buyer's attention was distracted. The deception would only be revealed when the buyer reached home and let the cat out of the bag. I think I might have done that one before, but I think it's quite interesting. And to make a pig's ear out of something is to attempt a task and get it so badly wrong, the effort is useless. I think our politicians should be familiar with pig's ears at the moment. The phrase dates back to the Middle Ages, when it is said that the only part of a pig that could not be eaten or used in some way was the ear. Therefore, any craftsman, or more likely apprentice, making something ineffective or unusable was considered to have produced a pig's ear. Yes, very interesting. Right, cup of coffee and sit and watch the sun. Lovely. Well, that's a nice thick heavy top dress of very well rotted manure, and what a difference it makes. I've put the planks back over the top, and that can now work its way in all winter. Right, that's the small bed done, the large one to go. Well, that's the asparagus cut right back. I've just got to mulch the bed now, and I've put 4 canes in, and they're adjacent to the plants that I think I can take a small crop from next year. That'll be their 3rd year, so I think I can afford to take a few shoots. So long as I can remember, that's what those canes are there for. Right, job done. Right, I've emptied 6 of the pots of the Sarpomera potatoes, and that's what I've got. I had 1 potato that had slug damage, and I found the slug, and he is no more. So it's not the greatest crop, and they're not the biggest potatoes, bearing in mind their main crop, but they are it's almost 100% success rate. And combined with the ones I grew in the ground, which are huge, I'm very happy with that. These 6 tubs I've put under this piece of glass, trying to keep the rain out so they don't damp and rot. So it's a bit of an experiment in storing them for a month or 2 before we need them. A job I forgot, and I've just reminded myself because I've walked past it, is this blackberry. It's not meant to be here. It was planted when I had a sort of an awning here rather than a shed, and it's managed to grow back. And I thought that was great news, and I've harvested some of these blackberries, but it has occurred to me that because the cold frames were right up against the shed, I'm encouraging damp. The rain hits this side of the shed full on, and the rain will sink down, and that with that blackberry there, it'll just create a damp air area which will start to rot the shed. So I've moved the cold frames forward to create an air passage, and I'm going to dig that blackberry out. I'd love to keep it, but it's got to go. Well, it took a while, but that's both strawberry beds well mulched. Well, a very acceptable winter harvest. Well, what a good day I've had. I think I did everything I intended to do, and a little bit more beside. Most of the beds now have had some sort of dressing, compost, manure, something, either dug in, top dressed. I've just done the gooseberry bed. That's all now got a really thick mulch layer of well rotted manure. So I've got a couple of beds down the bottom where the leeks are and the one opposite. I've yet to do those, but it's getting more difficult to get good stuff out of the manure pile. We get the manure from the farmer who owns the land, and there's absolutely no doubt that we get the sort of last pickings, and that's fair enough. You know, he puts a lot of his manure on his fields, and he doesn't want any debris and rubbish on his fields, so we get the last scraping. So in that pile of manure over there, as well as manure, is a lot of dirt, tarmac. We've had asbestos in there before, all sorts of rocks and logs and rubbish. So you have to filter that through, and it's getting more and more difficult. But so I had to spend a bit of time doing that today, but it's worth it, because in amongst all the rubbish there is some really good quality, well rotted manure. So that's all good. I've removed that raspberry from round the corner, I've chopped it down and I've planted it. I'm not sure if there's enough roots on it for it to survive, but we shall see over time. I've planted, sort of sown some more broad bean seeds. This one is the Sutton, which is quite a short dwarf variety. Yeah, really good. A nice little harvest. So really pleased. I'm going to go home a little bit earlier than I normally would, because I've got some stuff in the garden to do. So thank you for joining me. Thanks to all those who've subscribed. I think I've got a couple of new subscribers, so you're very welcome. And I shall see you again in another fortnight. So until then, look after yourselves, take care, goodbye for now.